Hello, Juan Carlos, can you hear me?
Hello, Valentin.
Hey, hello, good to see you.
Same.
I wanted to ask a few small questions about the current situation on Tenerife because there was a little bit of media sensation about a
Sure, yes.
heightened number of earthquakes, more earthquakes than usual. And people, of course, are a bit concerned. Earthquakes under active ocean island volcanoes might mean magma on the move. So, what is the current situation about these earthquakes, and what's the likelihood of an eruption on Tenerife right now, according to your assessment of the
Well,
situation?
the stress, the sensationalist has almost is gone,
Okay.
but um, in the last 2 weeks or so, people were really scared, and this was completely unnecessary because it only comes from the wrong use of only two words, two terms, earthquakes and Teide. First, Teide is not a volcano that can erupt because, or is very little probability because the last eruption of Teide was in the Middle Ages.
Hmm.
The most probably eruption, if they are going to occur in Tenerife, will be related to the dorsal, the rift,
The rift zones, correct.
the rift
Yes.
zone, and they are basaltic, strombolian, exactly like in La Palma.
Hmm.
So that's the. I know that it's more sexy to talk about Teide because Teide is a very big volcano, but it's not.
It's
They
a
should
focal
say
point. I can see why people focus on Teide, but
exactly.
yeah.
Would be better to say there are some earthquakes in the central part of Tenerife that probably will be related to the same eruption that have occurred in the historical times in Tenerife that are the last 500 years. And these
How
are
how
related,
how
these are
deep are
related
these
to dorsal.
earthquakes now? These new
Sorry?
earthquake swarms. How deep are they? At what depth level are they?
Yeah, they are 8, 10 kilometers deep, but the
Okay.
second run term used uh, also for the people of the institution is to say earthquakes because earthquakes in Spanish is terremoto, and terremoto is a very powerful word, but actually these are less than one in the Richter scale, so they are microseismicity that is only felt by the instruments, so the people don't feel these earthquakes at all. The problem is that, well, the thing is that now in Tenerife they are two institutions and they are competing in installing seismic station. There are more than 30 seismic stations, and they registered even the smallest movement, even at 10 kilometers deep below the bottom of the ocean. So
Yeah.
imagine if this seismic station were not functioning, nobody will be talking because nobody will even feel
I
this
was about
microseismic.
I was about to ask, have you felt any tremor or any earthquakes?
No,
And no, you have not,
nobody
living on
have.
Tenerife, and that's good to know. And yes, I agree with
Sorry,
you.
to feel an earthquake, it has to be two or more in the Richter scale, and this is
Absolutely.
less than one. And this is a logarithmic scale, so imagine.
So, and yeah, this is why the increased instrumentation, which in itself is a good thing. We want to have many instruments, but it's also easy to get a bit too sensitive about some of the
Absolutely.
readings that we
So
have.
you
And
have to be very careful how you
yes,
communicate these things to the. Of course, if you start to feel that these earthquakes, this microseismicity is becoming more and more higher in magnitude, 3, 4 in the Richter scale, and they are getting closer to the surface,
Once
And
they
they
move
are
up,
also,
correct.
exactly. And also you register some deformation and also some changes in the composition of the gas and some increase in the temperature that this is easy here in Tenerife because there are a lot of gallerias, these water tunnels that get very deep inside the volcano. So
Hmm.
actually you can feel if there is any anomaly in the some thermal anomaly. So if these circumstances come together, then you can say, okay, now we need to communicate to the population, to the people, that they can be an eruption in the next in a short period, and also tell the authorities to prepare some evacuation plan of whatever.
I agree with you, and I think we have not reached a point like that. I mean, the seismicity, the microseismicity, as you correctly call it, it's at a level of about 10 kilometers. It has not moved dramatically
Absolutely
upwards.
not.
So
Absolutely not.
there is likely some fluids or potentially even magma down there, but it seems
Yeah,
to just move a
could be
little bit.
magma, could be water, fluids,
Yes.
any kind of gases, whatever.
And I
Also,
guess,
also we have in Spanish, I don't know in English, but in Spanish we have a story about the wolf. Somebody was saying the wolf is coming,
yeah, the cry wolf
and
problem. Yes.
finally the wolf came, and nobody paid any attention.
Believed it exactly. You need to be a little careful with over reporting because if nothing happens after too many reports, people
Absolutely,
are not sensitive to it anymore, and this is actually a big problem that people will not respond because they don't take the
absolutely.
warnings as seriously.
The-
So we need to be a little mindful about this.
yeah,
The important thing here is that 50 years ago, we wouldn't even have realized that these exist because
yeah,
we wouldn't have had the instrumentation on the island, and only very sophisticated military technology would have actually detected that. And that would not necessarily have been a public data domain for us to access. So, in
take for example La Palma. In
mm,
La Palma in 2021, everybody knew that an erosion was going to occur. But in 1971, in the Teneguía eruption, we only learned about
exactly.
that erosion was coming because of the CIA, the American espionage that have the only seismic recording station in La Palma to watch for the Soviet submarine crossing the
That
Atlantic.
was the example I had in mind. I didn't want to refer to it directly, but you said it now. So this was actually that only very sophisticated military technology back in the 70s was actually able to detect any precursor seismicity that was
Absolutely.
on this level. And this was not something we could have, done back in the day with normal scientific instrumentation because it was simply not installed. So okay, but that means nobody quite now needs to not
No,
go on vacation.
there are other scenarios for the media to worry about. So
Yes,
nobody talks
certainly.
anymore.
That will also take away some of the attention from this. But you think there is no concern? People can still go to their vacation
No,
to Teide to the national park as normal, or do you think people need to do any precursory preparations? What's
absolutely not.
your
Not at all at the moment. And also, we have to be very careful to take care of the credibility of science because when you need to how you say to worry people, maybe people don't care anymore. So that's a
So
very
yes, I think we need to put it in context, and we're doing this right now. So these earthquakes or microseismic events, they exist. Of course, they're a reality, but they're not at this point a reason for direct concern because they have not moved upwards in any particularly rapid
exactly.
rate. They're at a considerable depth. So I mean, if something changes, of course, this is not to say that it cannot lead to something, but it doesn't look like an eruption is imminent, and I think that's the reality. And if an eruption would occur, I agree with you. Most likely, it would actually be basaltic eruption on the rift zones rather than on Teide itself.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's very good that there are so many seismic stations, but because that means that if something really happens, we will be, we will know.
And we can, because of the different stations, we can actually
Exactly.
pinpoint where the magma is rising rather
Yeah,
precisely, which will
absolutely.
also allow to make better forecasting in terms of evacuation preparations and seeing where a vent might occur and that kind of thing. But yes, of course, I mean, it's a volcano. I mean, there's activity in active volcanoes. We must realize that. But I don't see an immediate cause for concern regarding
Absolutely.
an upcoming eruption, and I guess I share that with you. Thank you very
And
much, Juan Carlos. Yeah,
Ali,
go ahead.
I forgot about to say that we also we are in an island that the economy resource mainly is tourism. So
Yeah.
that if the people hear abroad that something is happening in Teide, 800 terremotos, 800 earthquakes, people get scared, and this goes against the economic interests of the island. So that's absolutely stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid. On the other side, and of course, here we have to also see the other perspective and remind us all that, economic interests, like in the White Island disaster, we need to balance this against the safety. So people need to be informed about the kind of real risks. I see this, but also overplaying the risk is not an advantage here. Also economically, I see that as well because many livelihoods depend on this on the Canary Islands.
Absolutely.
So
But also, that's the balance that the science can provide between something that will happen and you have to care about, or something that is still, yeah, there are no reasons to alarm people. So,
well, it's good to be warned. Let's face it. I
exactly,
think it's good to be ready and for scientists
alert,
like us to think
be
about
alert,
this.
yes.
And also, there was this recent test case where people were simulating a potential eruption on the rift zone. All the organizations were in alert level. And of course, it was fictitious, but there is preparations in that direction. But hopefully, it's not going to be an explosive eruption like from Teide, and that's the implication versus a hopefully comparatively small eruption on the rift zone because we need to remind people the last eruption on the Tenerife was 1909. It was a very short eruption. It was only a week or so, I think,
10 days,
10
yes.
days, a very short event, very localized influence only in a really remote area up in the national park area. And even if that would happen today, this is so remote, nobody lives there. So potentially the implications are rather minor, but that will depend exactly on how such an event would take place. But no magma has been seen
Sure.
seismically to rise up. So this is not an event that we're looking at in a real format in the weeks to months to come. It doesn't look like it.
Yeah, but this is completely different of what I saw on television. A simulation of a Plinian eruption from the peak of Teide. So imagine.
Yeah, and that's sounds very disconcerting, but I mean, 10 kilometers depth is a little deep for the felsic material that we would expect the Teide to kind
Exactly.
of cause explosive behavior at Teide. I mean, so it doesn't quite match up. So at this depth, it's most likely basaltic magma. If it's magma at all, it could also be fluids
No,
moving, of
none
course.
European have ever witnessed an eruption of Teide. Only the Guanche people, the Aborigine, and that's why they call Teide Echeide, and Echeide means hell.
Yes, but the Canarios today call him Father Teide.
Father
So
Teide.
he is a very kind volcano to the people
Absolutely.
there.
It's
Yeah,
an icon of the island.
and hopefully it stays like that. But thank you for the summary, Juan Carlos. This helps a lot, and I hope this puts people at ease that these are, of course, real phenomena, but they are not at a level that we need to kind of get too alert at this point. But of course, volcanoes can awaken, and we need to keep an eye on these things.
Okay, Val. And don't forget that I am living 10 miles from Teide, and I
You are
am
living very close, yes.
very close, and I live very happily here. So
And
no,
you're very relaxed. That comforts me a lot. Okay, Juan Carlos, thank you very much and all the very best.
all the very best. Okay, Val.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.